Hello, this is John Hartson. Welcome to Claret and Blue Army TV.
Welcome back to Claret and Blue Army TV with me, your host, Baz Cox. I'm delighted again to be joined by Frankie, and we are going to be talking over the new podcast that has come out from Kris and Robert Snodgrass, the Lockdown Tactics, which featured West Ham's Jack Wilshire. It had a bit of skills from Declan Rice and also former footballer and boxer Leon Mckenzie. Frankie, how you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. Holding up and keeping nice and well in these times.
Good man, pleased to hear it. Obviously, we both listened and watched the podcast that they done, and there was a lot of things there that what they're trying to do, aiming to help raise awareness for the mental health. Obviously, Robert Snodgrass, we know, has been influential with Isla's fight, the little girl at West Ham fighting neuroblastoma. He's been very good throughout with his charity work there, but now it's moved to mental health awareness, and Kris Boyd has got a big part in that as well.
Yeah, I think the Kris Boyd charity, which is obviously a lot of the reasons why the podcast was set up, is a brilliant cause. And I think anyone who suffered from mental health issues knows that there's plenty of people there are plenty of other charities out there, and Tyson Fury does his bit, and he's a great ambassador for bringing awareness to mental health. But the Kris Boyd charity is all about letting people know that there's somebody there for them should they need them. So having someone to talk to, and I think sometimes that's a really big part, and that's something that people can sometimes miss. That sometimes you just want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone who you just want an ear to listen sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes you need to get things off your chest. And the fact that that's what Kris Boyd's charity does, I think it's a fantastic reason to sort of get involved with the podcast and everything that they do. But not just that, I think the cause is fantastic, and you can go over to the website, which is the chrisboydcharity.co.uk, and have a look at all the stuff they do and how they've raised and the events that they do and so on. But sometimes when there's a charity purpose behind something, the quality of what's on top of that can sometimes not be where it needs to be. However, the quality of what they're putting out is absolutely fantastic, and totally highly, highly recommended to anybody. We're obviously going to break down some elements of what people can expect from the podcast and the shows that they're putting together. But it's not just about the charity. What they're doing is as slick as it comes.
Yeah, bang on. And I think, as you say, for me, after listening to it, what I learned was massive. I don't suffer from mental health, but just listening to what they told us, what Leon delivered, what Jack said, it makes you realise more. And the simple message from them both was the same, like you said. Have that someone there to talk to. Like, make sure there's the ears that want to hear you or need to hear you so you can let it out, etc. But listening to what Leon Mckenzie said, he went through his career of being a footballer. During his days of being a footballer, he thought about committing suicide. Finished football, went to prison, come out of prison, admitted he needed another thing after that, went into the boxing. But all along throughout, he was saying how he always needed that thing. He needed that routine, that plan, which he learned in prison, which helped his life. And now, it's great. He's telling us how he's now trying to help the younger pros in football for the afterlife after football, which isn't being taught for these kids.
No, and I think, their careers, although they earn substantial amounts of money, and actually they should be financially secure, most of them. And then we have to forget, these are not just Premier League players we're talking about here. We're also talking about down to non-league football. And, even from the lowest level of professional football, people still have this as their day job. And when football finishes, which nowadays is getting younger and younger because, to keep up with the pace of the modern day game, you've got to be super, super fit. So, the age that you can continue to in football now is getting younger and younger. And having something to stimulate yourself, to occupy your mind after football, it's not about money, it's the activity.
Yeah.
Like I said, for some people, it will be about financial support because they won't have made enough from football. But even the people who make the serious amounts of money, having that thing to focus on after the life of football, I think is never something that people have planning for. And I think too often do we see footballers come away from the game and end up really quite unwell and in a really bad place. And it's a shame. And there should be something that helps that.
And fair play to him, because he's experienced the bad days and now he's trying to help, which again is great. He's helping raise the awareness for these people for that as well. Jack Wilshire, obviously he spoke well, I thought very well, through what his career's been like from a young boy being scouted when he was at Luton by a referee who was an Arsenal fan, joining Arsenal, becoming a pro at 15. But moving on from all of that, he spoke about when he come to West Ham, and he also mentioned when he was at Arsenal, when he went out on loan at Bolton, that West Ham were interested and he wanted to come to us, but West Ham wanted it with a view to buy, and Arsenal weren't prepared to sell him. When the transfer come around with us signing him, a lot of people had mixed feelings. I'll be honest, I thought we were signing a top player. Yes, I know he's got his history, and listening to him, you know, some people that speak bad about him, it's worth listening, because I think you could be quite harsh towards him. And these people are humans, as we know, and these injuries plague them, and they affect them as much as us fans. And you know, as much as we get on their backs, and I think we used the example the other week when he jumped out the tumble dryer. You know, he was slated by a lot of fans. Now, if the injury that he had was that bad, he would never have been in that tumble dryer. He ain't a silly boy either, in my opinion, you know. But he got a lot of grief for that. And I think that becomes because of the amount of money he's on at West Ham. Now, he spoke about his boyhood club, being a West Ham fan. After meeting Pellegrini, he was the man who he wanted to be his creator. And I was all up for it. And I thought, what a signing we've got. Unfortunately, that man has had so many injuries that we ain't had the best of him. And I hope to God we get it, but I just don't know how many more chances he'll get.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because, you know, when you have these massive layoff periods from football, everyone knows you get your best out of a footballer when they're playing week in, week out. That's, you know, your touch. And look, you know, I've never played a high level. I've played a decent level of football, but even playing five-a-side on a Monday night, if you have a couple of weeks out, when you come back, your touch is gone. And that's on the most basic level.
He did say every time he got an injury, he said, people think because you're back fit and you played one game or 45 minutes, whatever, they think you're back. He said, it takes 5 to 6 games. He said, and every time within that spell, he picked up something different. And he also said it might have been from when he was younger and he used to go into reckless tackles in training. He said, but that was my game.
Well, I don't think it was just about it being the game. Obviously, Snodgrass, which, you know, I'm a massive, massive fan of Snodgrass. His dedication, his professionalism. I just think he's, you know, the work ethic the man's got is just phenomenal. And for me, that's what I need from a player at West Ham, is someone who gives that level of commitment, and not just off the pitch, but on the pitch as well. For me, he is a superb, you know, prime football player, which I just think
he's a proper pro, isn't he?
Proper pro, mate. And I respect that massively. And I don't think there's enough of that these days. But even Snodgrass said, you know, when I used to get injured, he used to come back, and I can't remember what it was, but about a manager who sort of got in the team's ear and said, I'll lay off the tackles with him a little bit. And he was like, I just want someone to come in and crush a challenge into me, because you want to test out the injury, as weird as that sounds. And again, as football fans, you know, sometimes we see them tackles going in on the training ground and we go, oh, what are you doing that for? But actually, the professional footballers, they want to know that when they go out on that pitch on next weekend, they want to know that their leg's going to hold up. And it's better for that to have happened in training than them to walk on that football pitch and be nervous and not give 100% because they're worried about a niggly injury. I was very, very surprised at how much, you know, I got from watching that show. And I think we're incredibly lucky that things like that happen at the moment, because if football was on as it is normally now, things like that don't normally happen. The media teams, the club PRs, you know, teams, they all say, look, don't get involved with podcasts because they've got, you know, a reputation of the club that can be brought into disrepute and stuff like that. So they're not allowed to do these things. The fact that we can go and listen to the inside parts of football that we're not normally exposed to, for me, it was so interesting. And it did humanise the players for me to realise what they go through. And, you know, like you said, when we were signing him, there was a bit of a mixed opinion. I was of the opinion of, you know, I'm worried, I'm concerned he's going to be on big money. And we've seen it too often recently where we pay big wages for a player who just don't play. And we're not the sort of club that can carry that, because if we're paying big money, we need the players to be on the pitch. But when you heard him talk about how much of a West Ham fan he is, and, you know, if we'd have taken that gamble and it would have paid off, it could have been massive for us. And now looking back on it, even though in hindsight we know it hasn't worked out now, I actually think the gamble was probably worth it, because I think he would have given everything for that club. And I think he would have, you know, really been, he would have put his heart on his sleeve and given everything for us. So.
And I hope that day can still come, even if he only gets one full season. I really hope to God for him as well, not just because of he's at West Ham. You know, even if he left us this year and he went elsewhere, you know, he got the recognition he did from other players for a reason. That wasn't because it was a one-off, it was a fluke. He was that good, but he's been plagued with injuries and he needs a bit of luck. The thing, like you said, with him being a West Ham fan, and he spoke about Mark Noble, watching Mark Noble every week for West Ham when he was at Arsenal, because he always looked out for us. And then he said the day he joined the club, Mark was the first person to welcome him. He said, and watching Mark, he said, he is that proper pro around the club, because he's the person that, he ain't just the friendly man to the team or the squad. He's like that with every member of staff at the club, makes everybody feel welcome. You know, things like that, for me, are going missing in football now. I could imagine Steven Gerrard being like that at Liverpool. You know, I don't know who would take that role at West Ham if and when Mark Noble retires, because we ain't going to have a player to be with us for that long. And every football club needs that. And that's my worry now. You know, Jack Wilshire, I think he would be that same sort of person as Mark Noble, as a leader. And he said his dream was to captain Arsenal. No, and I think he would have led Arsenal the way Mark Noble has led West Ham, on and off the pitch, throughout the whole club. I just hope to God that, as I say, we get to see more of Jack. The podcast was superb from all the people involved: Kris Boyd, Rob Snodgrass, Liam Mckenzie, Jack Wilshire, and obviously Declan doing his tactics. And as we've both said, it is well worth a watch. Take yourselves over to the Lockdown Tactics and make sure you give it a listen, episode 2. And again, what they're doing it for mental health, to help spread awareness for that. So even if you're not interested in listening to any footballer stories, which you should, you know, listen for that reason. Anything you want to add to that, Frankie? No,
not really, mate. I just think, you know, then I think it is for all ages. I enjoyed it because I enjoyed that insight, but they're also doing stuff for younger sort of kids on there as well, where they did the Top Bin Challenge to win a really amazing prize on there as well. And the social media activity is superb. I mean, everything they're doing over there is everyone can get involved. If you're a dad with their kid and you're looking for something to do in these times, there's something for the dad to go and listen to, and then there's something to get in the garden with your kid and play that out and post it on social media and see them talking about it, and see Snodgrass, you know, tweeting about it, and Kris Boyd, and see professional football players commenting on your content. It's amazing what they're doing over there. And like I say, in normal times, this wouldn't happen. So make the most of it now and get over there and get involved.
And quickly touching on what you said with the kids doing their little jewels, did you see Mark Noble's boy at the top bin?
Did he? No, I didn't see that.
The very first one, that's Mark's boy, who's at the club now. So when I say I don't know who's going to lead the club, let's hope he comes through like his dad, because we could have one on our hands there. But for now, thank you.
The top bin, you know that. I want to see
I don't think I can get it off the floor. For now, thank you very much for watching Claret and Blue Army TV. Make sure you hit that like, share and subscribe button, and we'll see you very soon.